prioritize peace, we lay the foundation for a society where every individual can thrive without the fear of violence or injustice.
Together, through the enactment of just and compassionate legislation, we can contribute to a world where the pursuit of peace is not just an ideal, but a tangible reality for generations to come.
Today, we are honored to have with us Dr. Chinmay Bhosle, Gold Medalist of the Pune University, Dr. Swati Rane, Founding Vice President, Clinical Nursing Research Society, Dr. Partha Pratim Mitra, Sir, Professor of Voksan University, Advocate Anuja Petia, Advocate on Record, Supreme Court of India. Now, I would like to call upon Professor Sridhar Pabisetti, Senior Director, School of Government, MITWPU, to deliver the welcome address.
Distinguished speakers on the dais, my dear colleagues and my dear friends. The topic of peace building and sustainable development is something that has plugged our heart at one point or the other in our life. What is the purpose of human life is something that thousands of people have researched over the years. And I think peace and development has always come up on top as being the right goals for everyone to pursue. This conference is a wonderful coming together of brilliant minds from diverse disciplines who, having practiced their disciplines at the highest levels, are coming and spending time with us and trying to focus together on saying that how do we unite together and bring in well-being for all of us and in this audience and also people beyond this narrow boundary of a classroom. The walk into the future will depend a lot on how can we get people from diverse disciplines to work together. Over the next 90 minutes, you will be pushed on in various disciplines, in various fashion by all our speakers. Try and find that uniting thread that connects you with all the wisdom that you gain from the speakers. And that, if you get it right, could be a lifetime project for each one of us of making that into a new reality. How do you assemble interdisciplinary teams to achieve larger goals than what just one small corporate or one small government can aim to be? The Sustainable Development Goals by itself have had a long journey, starting with Millennium Development Goals, and then many countries coming together and say, this is working for us, this is not working for us. And SDGs are probably a good example of a global negotiation that has happened of saying that in what way are these SDGs acceptable to us, and in this form, how will I contribute to it? So become part of this global movement and also always keep asking the important question, will it result in lasting peace? We see conflicts around us. We should always go back and see what has been, how can I put all that I've learned through my university education into creating a more peaceful tomorrow. And I thank all the speakers for taking time out of their busy schedule and coming and sharing their knowledge to create a peaceful tomorrow. And at MIT World Peace University, this is the union that we want of science, technology, and every other stream of life coming together to create a peaceful tomorrow. Thank you, organizers, for giving me this opportunity. And I'll not stand before the distinguished speakers and you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I request our Honorable Dean of School of Law, Dr. Sunil George, Associate Dean, Dr. Poonima Inamdar, Professor Sridhar Pabisetti, and Dr. Milind Patre to come upon the stage for felicitation of our guests. Please applaud for Dr. Chinmay Bhosle.
Please keep applauding. Keep applauding, guys. Thank you, sir.
Put your hands together for Dr. Swati Rane.
Rifa ma'am, could you please do the felicitation? Please keep applauding. Thank you, ma'am.
Dr. Partha Pratim Mitra.
Keep applauding.
Put your hands together for Dr. Partha Pratim Mitra, guys.
I request everyone to keep applauding, please. I request Neha ma'am to felicitate.
Last but not the least, on stage with us, Advocate Anuja Petia.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to request all the dignitaries on the dais to come forward for a group photograph. Thank you. I would now request the technical team to play the video of our session based on Heralding Peace to Promote Law.
This session is based on peace building and sustainable development. The theme reconciles with the MIT World Peace University's overarching vision as a leading university committed to promoting a culture of peace through the delivery of value-based education. The interdependence and complexity of today's world have made the relationship between peace and sustainable development crucial for all stakeholders, individuals and nations alike. As a matter of fact, peace cannot be maintained until the underlying causes of conflict, many of which have their roots in development-related problems, like poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation are addressed. We must investigate the legislative frameworks and policy options that can support the peaceful coexistence of sustainable development and peace because of this mutually beneficial relationship. This session is an endeavor set out on a path of discovery, cooperation, and creativity motivated by the principles of sustainable development and peace.
The stage will now be graced by the presence of our esteemed session coordinator, Assistant Professor Rifa Sandberg from MITWPU School of Law. Ms. Rifa will guide us through the theme of our session and set the tone for what promises to be an engaging and enlightening session. Ma'am?
Esteemed guests, dignitaries, and everyone present here, a warm welcome to the very first session of the third International Symposium on Law and Peace. I stand before you with great happiness as the session coordinator for this very first session with a profoundly important theme: peace building and sustainable development. This theme is undoubtedly aligned with the vision of MIT World Peace University. Our commitment resonates with nurturing a culture of peace through value-based education. Here all the discussion of peace are more important today, as always, with its geopolitical implications. Peace goes beyond the mere absence of conflict. It encompasses social justice, equality, and the protection of human rights. Meanwhile, sustainable development intertwines with social and economic progress within a framework that respects and preserves our environment. This session, under the overarching theme, is not merely an intellectual exploration. It's a call to action, a platform for dynamic engagement, and an opportunity to collectively chart a course toward a future where peace and sustainable development are not distant ideas but lived realities. Today, we gather here with our esteemed panelists to explore the nexus between these two pillars. That is, understanding that true peace cannot thrive unless we address the root causes of conflicts, many of which are deeply related or intertwined with development, law, and policy related challenges. As we venture into this session, it is essential to acknowledge that our chosen theme lies at the heart of human progress. This very session is not confined to legal discourse alone. It is a collaborative and interdisciplinary endeavor, as you can see from the panelists. The session brings together law professionals, experts, researchers, and policymakers from diverse fields to foster comprehensive discussion that acknowledge the multifaceted challenges we face. Dear all, let me conclude by asking each and every one of you seated here to actively engage, question, and contribute to making this session a transformative idea and a catalyst for meaningful action. Together, let us pave the way for a future where peace and sustainable development are not just aspirational goals, but integral component of our shared reality. Thank you, everyone. Let the dialogue for peace and sustainable development begin. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. I now have the pleasure of introducing our first speaker for the day, Dr. Chinmay Bhosle. Sir is a gold medalist from Pune University and one of the youngest advocates in India to have a PhD in law. He has over 10 years of expertise in economic offenses, white collar crimes, and dispute resolution in both public and private settings. Sir is in charge of the firm's work in economic and commercial disputes and has a track record of winning multiple cases. Sir has appeared in well known instances involving economic violations such as the Aadhar scam, the 2G trial, Hassan Ali, and the Mawar police firing, a number of well known cases. He works closely with startups, serving as an active advisor and a member of their boards of director in numerous instances. Many multinational corporations, banks, builders, commercial establishments, real estate, and infrastructure firms all turn to him for advice. Additionally, he writes an exclusive editorial piece called Bol Kaidachi, which is published in Sakar, the top daily in Maharashtra. His scholarly and social writings are frequently included in both domestic and foreign journals. I would ask you, sir, to please address the assembly.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope after the very long session of clapping for us, you are not tired yet and the ambient setting is not helping you doze off. So it's a very thoughtful idea on behalf of your institution to bring about a colloquy on the topic of making peace and development sustainable. Essentially, whenever we speak about such ideas, we speak of them in isolation, and eventually they remain academic in nature, and rarely it can go beyond the realms of academics and get into the realities of the life. So it's a very noble gesture on their behalf. I thank the institution to call us all over here and get along and discuss these ideas. So essentially, I would like to touch upon both these ideas exclusively on the basis of my expertise and not try and get into multiple things and streams of life or development or sustainability which do not fall under my expertise. I would let the other speakers speak on them. Essentially, when we speak, so I'll stick to law, I'll try and stick to law and order as well when we try to maintain peace and bring about peace and we try to make it sustainable. So essentially, when we understand the social fabric of any society, be it on a global scale or be it on a national scale, essentially we need to understand that it has to be a marriage of various types of people and various types of requirements, right from a peasant or a farmer who's working hard to feed the country or the world, to a capitalist who's running large industries whose taxes are taking care of the infrastructure on the basis of which the country evolves or grows. The entire and everyone who falls in between needs to be considered, needs to be taken care of, and everyone's requirements need to be brought together in a fabric of law and policies which eventually became sustainable. Now, when we speak about sustainability and when we speak about development and when we speak about rules and policies and laws, what do I essentially want to state to you all when we speak about making it practical is that will it be practical to just speak about environment? Will it be practical to just speak about sustainability and not think about the capitalism or the underlying economics of it? Because eventually that is what is going to fuel the economy, the country, and feed the people. But on the same, but as we speak about that on the other side, is it fair to only speak about capitalism? Is it fair to only speak about development without considering the environmental impact and without considering the sustainability part of it and about considering every person in the social fabric? The answer again is no. Therefore, we need to get along a marriage of these two things. And when I say that we need to get a marriage about it, I would like to give a practical example for you. For example, we keep speaking about things like environmental impacts of development, and probably I'll give you the smallest and the easiest example to understand. let's consider vehicles. Everyone needs to use vehicle for their commute from point A to point B. We keep speaking about getting electric vehicles on the roads. Unfortunately, in India at least, I won't speak globally. Unfortunately, on India, on one side, theoretically, we are speaking about making the environment a better place by getting electric vehicles on road. On the other hand, our policies are such that the electric vehicles are at least 30 to 40% costlier than diesel or petrol cars. So are these things sustainable in nature? So on one hand, we are having academic discourses where we'll say that we need the environment to be cleaner and greener, we need to do something about it, then we are very happy that electric vehicles have come into play. However, on the other side, the policies and the laws are such, the taxation is such, that a 10 rupee diesel car, if it is converted into an EV and sold on the roads of India, it's going to be costing 14 rupees. Why is anyone going to pay that much from their pocket? So this is one of the factors. So secondly, there is in India, if you consider another practical thing and simplest thing that you guys will also relate to and understand is probably in India, the only markers are what is your turnover, what is your profit, and what is the taxation on it. And at best, when we speak about sustainability, these days we are speaking about carbon credits. But beyond that, there has to be policy which helps the business houses as well to make sure that their businesses are very responsible in nature and they are very sustainable in nature. There could be policies in place which give them certain benefits of making their business environment absolutely responsible towards the nature, towards the policies that they have, towards the HR that they have, or the country at large. And if probably that translates into some benefits for them, be it in taxation or otherwise, definitely everyone would want to be a part of the sustainable workforce or sustainable business community of the country. Having spoken about this part of it, since we are speaking about two aspects trying to get about a marriage of two things, one is development and sustainability. And on the other hand, we are also speaking about making the sustainable development peaceful and making a world a peaceful place to be in. So when we are speaking about these two things, essentially what is very necessary also is that irrespective of what thoughts we have, what discourses we have, what laws we bring about, and what rules we make, it is absolutely essential also to concentrate on the implementation of it. Unless and until implementation is your forte, everything remains on the paper, and the society which we are aiming for on the global or on a national scale eventually doesn't really become a reality. So that's when our peace quotient gets defined. We can have endless laws on paper, but unless and until we have the right mechanism to implement those laws in the right spirit of the laws or the regulations, we are not going to have a society that we are actually aiming to reach by way of those laws. When I speak about this, another example, I'm presuming most of you are from law school. Another example which you all will relate to is that India probably is one of the countries with highest number of legislations. Ideally, it should translate into a very peaceful, very smooth country, irrespective of our diversity, since we have endless diversified laws. However, if you consider that on the academic side, we have too many laws, we have too many legislations on paper. But when it comes to implementation, eventually implementation either is going to happen through ADR mechanisms, which is beyond court, or in the realms of the courts of law. On both the sides, when we speak about ADR, even today after 75 years of our independence, the topmost judges, our highest judicial heads, need to coax people and try and make them understand that ADR is a mechanism which needs to be focused upon. We are still there after 75 years. And the second realm, unfortunately, which is the courts of law. Let's consider the city or the state that you are studying in right now, in Maharashtra. The court in Pune was built by the British. The Bombay High Court was built by the British. In the past 75 years, we have not really focused our attention on building infrastructure around implementing our laws. So if the mechanism which is going to focus on the peace building and nurturing the peace in the society, and which is going to make sure that the rules and laws around development, around sustainability are implemented, unless and until that ecosystem is not developed, we can't really have a environment or a society which is ideally peace loving, where any sort of mischief or disregarding the rule of law is rightly dealt with. It's not going to make our society in general very peaceful in nature. Therefore, that is another aspect which needs to be implemented on a practical level. Understanding law, making laws probably could be a easier aspect. However, since especially peacemaking agencies, be it courts or police, they are not really revenue generating mechanisms for any player in the world, not just India. Since it's not a revenue generating stream, it's usually not focused into, especially when we consider a country like India, the focus is absolutely not on developing the police machinery or the judicial machinery, and that is something that needs to change, because you cannot expect an officer to be working on implementing laws, making sure that peace and law and order is taken care of, as well as taking notes for the courts and appearing in the courts as well, and also looking after the VIP securities and whatnot that they have to deal with. And having said that, also it's the same situation like the courtrooms. Just the way the courts were built hundreds and probably more than hundreds of years ago in our country, most of the police stations are also in very dilapidated conditions. We have never looked upon the necessity to develop them. Therefore, when we speak about this, the honorable topic that we have considered on this today's symposium, making development sustainable and bringing about peace in the society is absolutely going to be possible only when we bring about a marriage of making sustainable rules which can be practically implemented, and the focus is equally on both and not just on rule making. And with that, I hope it's put some thought in your minds to put your thoughts and actions into motion. And with that, I'll leave the rest of the speakers to be coming here and speaking with you, and I'll rest my short discussion with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your words were so inspiring. Now, we are excited to introduce Dr. Swati Rane, founding person of Clinical Nursing Research Society. With over 20 years in healthcare, she is the founder and CEO of Sheva Sakti, consultancy specializing in hospital planning and operations. As a visiting faculty at Tata Institute of Social Sciences, she teaches in the master's program in public health and holds a PhD in hospital management from TISS. Dr. Rane embraces a holistic and compassionate approach to healthcare, practicing pranic healing and stress management techniques. Ma'am?
Very good afternoon. I think Chinmay sir took us to the hard part of it. I'm going to complete with the soft part of peace. So when this topic was given to me, SDGs and all we teach, but I had never gone into the depth. I had never gone into the depth of peace. So coming from the background of spirituality, pranic healer, pranic healer is energy science. So when I thought about peace, the most important thing came to my mind was what actually peace is meant, because it comes from a local level to an international level. And today peace is something which we are seeking at our workplaces, at our houses. In fact, even our children, my daughter would say, give me some peace, just keep quiet for some time. So I think, so what is peace actually to us is the most important factor, which we all have to understand. So for me, peace, initially in earlier years, before COVID, peace was something, go for a spiritual session, be quiet, okay, eka mathamadhe jaun basa, that was peace. But I think peace is not that anymore. Peace is even while I'm talking to you, I have to be at peace internally whether this place is going to be without any threats. Is any bomb going to come? If I'm walking on the road, whether I'm going to have a peace, there is no person is going to dash me. Okay, even if I'm sitting in a car, I'm more worried that I stay in Mumbai, so the next person is not going to dash my car. So I think peace has come to a level where we have to understand that peace is no more only for big topics which we used to talk. So peace building and sustainability itself, the word, I think we have to understand the word. Sustainability has to sustain. Peace has to sustain. Peace cannot be today just because I'm here, we are talking about peace, or we are learning about peace, and then out of place we go and peace has gone. So peace has come to a level where it has come to at our workplaces. When we talk about gender, peace is there. When we talk about family, peace is there. When we talk about workplace, peace is there. So I would start my presentation with a question which Edward had asked. Are we doing everything in our power to achieve the sustainability development goals? So this was the thing which he asked to the UN leaders, the academicians, and to the civil society people. And very few people are honest today, but this gentleman was very honest, where he said that if you turn a blind eye to human rights, we are not. So today, human rights have gone for a toss because humans have gone for a toss. Don't you feel? Today, we are more interested in material aspects than human life. Today, being a doctor in a hospital, I'm more worried about my infrastructure, my medical equipments, than the patients or patient's life. Have you all come across that how we have moved our intentions from actual lively things to the things which we are more materialistic? We are more interested in our MacBooks and more interested in our data than the lives. So what I have understood while doing this presentation or working on it, that we need today to give disadvantageous groups. Today we are talking about gender equality. And I was coming today with one of your colleagues who came to pick me up. And I said that I see only women in universities. But when I go at the decision-making table, maybe I am the only one and I may have one more. But I don't see more women. And in a healthcare, the decision-making is so, or you can say the glass ceilings are so high that 80% people working in healthcare are women at the ground level, doctors, nurses. But the decision makers, the business, is run by males. So I think today peace will come when I have you all ladies sitting at the table 50-50. And now transgenders are also there. That is peace for me. Then comes is, I'm not taking you through the slides because they are too much, okay, and you'll sleep. So you better listen to me. Okay. So now the thing is that, yeah, because the topic of peace, if you see, SDG goals 17 are there, but everywhere peace is important. So we have to understand this, that human rights is the most important thing, and we have forgotten. I work as an activist also. So during COVID, we had tough time because there was a lot of conflicts. Healthcare workers were not getting PPE kits, and they wanted these healthcare workers, doctors, nurses to go and work. Isn't it a conflicting situation? So where are you talking about human rights? In healthcare itself, if the doctor and nurse is not at peace, what peace will they give to the doctor? I mean, to the patients. So this is the most important thing, I think, what we have to understand. The topic itself is such that, it is asking us to be inclusive. Do you check inclusivity in your houses? When you're taking any decision, is your mother included in the decision making? So there the gender comes a lot. I'll tell you, we had a reunion recently, and we had a co-ed, okay? And in our WhatsApp group, when I joined, after a week's time, I was seeing that only I am the woman who is talking to all, and the rest all were men. And I was asking my friends, why don't you all speak? They said that they don't allow us to speak, not to speak, to write on the. They can't write on WhatsApp. So that is where, gender equality is. And now we are only 4 people we are speaking, and I'm the only woman. Because rest men have stopped talking because the patriarchy has gone into it. So when we were students like y'all, we used to sit together, eat together, we used to discuss together. But now when they have come to 40 plus ages, they don't want to listen to women, be it a friend or a wife or maybe a mother. So that is the evolution what is happening. So just imagine at peace levels at internationally in UN what must be happening. What type of policies we must be having, and who are making these policies and for whom? Are these policies made for alpha generation? Are these policies made for women like me who are going to become senior citizen in next 10 years' time? And I don't want to sit in a place quietly. I'm a very active person. So is there any place in the policy making where what my needs are counted? I don't think so we are there. And that is the reason I think that we have to stop thinking and start working on it. Now we are talking about coming to the targets. So they have this peace building part. Okay, we have around 16 targets, and there we have reduce violence, protect children, equal access to justice. Today, what is social justice? I was attending a case of this Nanded case, if you know, where the children were in an ICU. We lost few children, and we had filed a PIL against the healthcare in Maharashtra. That also one of the judges had taken an initiative to file the case against the government, and we were supporting to them as activists. And I realized that the amount of workload what the judges are having and the amount of work what the lawyers are having is so difficult. And law people don't understand health people don't understand law. So there is such a big difference in our understandings. So I feel that we need more multidisciplinary teams where we can come together and work together. Otherwise, I don't think sustainability can remain. Then we have got strengthen the participation in global governance. Local governance में problem है, so global is very far. Okay. In local governance, how many of you all are interested in local governance? How many of you all know and go and fight with the local governance? I started fighting with the local governance during COVID. I realized that Mumbai is divided into wards, and in wards there is a HOD, and that HOD is responsible for Mumbai's wards. I didn't know about that. So at our level, how much are we really getting into the system? So why will the system change? Then comes is the need of the hour is commitment is needed at all the levels, from local level, national level, and the international level, and then only the policies will change. Coming to the international level, what is happening in Gaza, Syria? Where was UN? Where was WHO? All these big organizations, they talk big, but do they really do big? That's the question which we have to ask. The pandemic itself was a big thing because we don't know still the virus was artificial or natural. So where is your peace? Where is your social justice? And where is your inclusivity? The task team of Mumbai or Maharashtra for COVID had all male doctors. That also from allopathy. So where is peace? Where is comfort? Where was epidemiologist, the most important? Where was public health person? There was not a single nurse. There was not a female doctor. And all the people who were taking the decisions were with the frame of not a public health approach, but an allopathy approach. So here we have to ask, who is taking the decisions of peace building in our societies, in our houses? So the action is there. First is you have to maintain trust. Are you trusting yourself today? Are you trusting the next person today? Strengthening the capacities of the institution. How the institution will strengthen when the system itself is not developed or the policies are not made with the inclusive approach. All the policies, I'm sure, in the colleges, the youths were not there. There were only teachers and the administrators and the owners. To secure justice for all, facilitate peaceful transition for the sustainable development. I always think, this is only good for writing papers and questions and getting marks. In reality, I think we are far away. So, for me, the most important thing is my target would be make peaceful societies, make just societies, and make inclusive societies. Start it from your house today. Go to your place in your house and check if you're the father, how much inclusive are you keeping the family in the decision making. Then comes is the violence against women, the children, which has increased today. Today, the violence has increased for what? Are you going to tell women to sit at house, or you're going to tell the children that no, you're going to play, this place is safe? Today, even the house is not safe for the children. Think about the war places like Gaza, where the bombing is directly done on the hospitals. So where is this vulnerable group going to go? Resilient cities, yes. How much resilient, I don't know. What is smart cities? I am still not aware what is the meaning of smart cities. Coming to your increasing justice and legal empowerment, after going to High Court, I think I will never file a case. Because looking at them, it was such difficult. Like if I file a case, I think my grandchildren will come for attending the cases. So, but still, we have hope from the youth, because 1/3 of the population today of India is youth, and you're the ones who are going to change the whole thing. Every month we get 18th birthdays of youth. So 1 million youths become adults. Okay, by 18 years, I call you all adults because you really are adults, because I'm a teenager's daughter and she knows much better than me about the world. So what about the disabled? Where are the disabled today? Nowhere. So UN has started something called as UA. It is an Indian chapter of Global Generation Unlimited, where there are 6 people who are taken by UN to start this UA program. I would want to start this video. How do we start it? Anybody can help me? This is the video which I think everybody should see, and whoever is interested can join the UA program. Yeah, we can pass to the students later on. So, yes. So here this slide shows to us that 60% of our conflicts are for the 40% natural resources. So from there we can understand that where we have to go. So the environmental issues will never be changed till we come to a level where we can take decisions. In the COP thing 28, which is happening at Dubai, India has not signed yet. And I'm so happy that they have not signed. I don't know for what reasons, but I'm still happy they have not signed, because there would be some reason where at least India is saying no to something. Because India till now used to sign every place and we were just followers. I think now we have come out from the followers mindset, and our leaders have at least come to questioning mindset. So next slide is is the second last slide. So the, the peace building thing is leaving no one behind, and whoever is left behind, let them take us, be responsible for them by seeing back who is left behind. And who are left behind are the vulnerable groups, that is children, women, the people from poverty backgrounds, where today poverty has increased to a level where more than half the world is sleeping half empty plate. So that is what we have to see. And I would thank you all for this, attending my thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I have the pleasure to introduce Dr. Partha Pratim Mitra, sir, who is an associate professor at Vivekanand Institute of Professional Studies, Delhi, specializing in business law, family law, environmental law, and research methods. He has authored and edited law-related books and contributed to reputable journals. Dr. Mitra organized seminars with institutions like ICSSR and NHRC, and as a speaker, participated in events at institutions such as Indian Institution of Management, Ranchi. With the previous roles at the National University of Study and Research in Law, Ranchi, he chaired meetings for the boards of research studies and research advisory committee. Dr. Mitra holds a degree from University of Burdwan, including a PhD. I request sir to please address the gathering.
Good afternoon, everyone. On the dais, of the dais, dignitaries, and my dear students. Just one correction I want to do. I am a teacher by birth, so that's why correction is my job. Right now, I am professor at Oxford Law University, that is in Hyderabad. Whatever she has read, that is just my previous, that is, most probably there is some problem for communication. Anyway, so first thing, as a teacher, I will always teach. So today's subject is the sustainable development and peace. This is the thing. And your Justice Jadhav madam has started what I have understood. She asked the question that how justice is related or how law is related to peace. So that's why to know this thing, I have to go, we all have to go very far, means prehistorical thing. If we see the first purpose of a student of law, why you are studying law? Usually you will tell that I want to do practice, whatever it may be. The purpose of the law was just to get the justice. And Aristotle is telling in 320 BC that law is the passion, law is the reason free from passion. Law is the reason. And when we get the justice, when we have the right. And if we come to this part, modern world, that without UNO, we cannot understand that what is peace. Peace is the latest development, if we see. Peace is very latest, mainly after the Second World War. That peace, security, peace building, all of these questions are coming. Peacekeeping authorities, because on that time, peace in institutional phase, it was realized that peace must be there. But justice is very old word, if you see. Justice originated from very first. Means Greek period, if you see. Justice actually, if you see the word of the famous judge, V.R. Krishna, he is telling justice is peace. We want just society, as Madam has told. We want just society, means peace must be there. Why we are going to the court of law? Because we want peaceful society. Our rights has been violated. Law should establish this right. And peace and tranquility should be maintained. The prime job of the law is just to maintain the peace and tranquility in the society. And if there is any breach, then justice is coming. And when you get the justice? When you have the right. So there is a tripartite relationship between the law, justice, and the right. If you see all these famous leaders, if you see from Gandhiji to Nelson Mandela They always ask for the rights. And if you can establish your right, only then you can avail your justice and peace will automatically prevail. So, every revolution, every movement, from the French Revolution to Russian Revolution to American Civil War, even our independence, if you see, you have been given with our your that preamble. That is also telling about our rights. Whenever there is a violation of rights, the question of justice is coming. And violation of right is the peace. So that's why, if we see recently definition of peace, there is a declaration of proclamation of action on a culture of peace. Even General Assembly has passed this thing. And they are telling peace is not only the absence of conflict, but also require positive, dynamic, participated process where dialogue is encouraged and conflict are resolved and a spirit of mutual understanding and cooperation. All of these things are coming. So conflict, even today, last year, 2022, there are 50% of conflict is due to this Russia-Ukraine war. 50% armed conflict means 50% increase of the death of the civilian due to the armed conflict. They are not the subject, but they suffered. Law is for those. So you all are the torchbearer. You all are the brand ambassador of the peace. Nelson Mandela was a lawyer. Gandhiji was a lawyer. Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer. They were not only the peace builder, they were law by profession. So through law, you can bring the peace. You can provide the justice. You can establish the right. So these are the relationship. Now another thing is coming, sustainable development. I have been called by my fellow colleague that something must be told about the sustainable development. This session is on the sustainable development. This is a very new thing, sustainable development. And you all are aware that UN has adopted these 7 SDG. That is the 7 principles. 16 is telling, 16 policy is telling, policy number 16 is telling that peace, the topic is the peace, justice and strong institution. Peace, you see, that is a relation. Peace and justice, both are together. Unless until justice is done, peace will not prevail. Clear? So that's why you have to, if you see the logo of the Supreme Court, how many of you have visited, please see the Jatra Dharma Tatra Jaya. Here Dharma means the law. The question is, you will get the victory when there is the justice. So that's why don't forget the word justice, and without justice, peace will not come. Anyway, I'm coming to now this SGD, what they are telling about the 16 goal is telling that peace, justice, and a strong institution. Your institution must be strong. Now there is a hue and cry that in our country institutions are not working properly. If institutions, so how the peace and justice, human right is there, how many of you are aware that the Human Rights Commission is there, there is a frequent violation of Human Rights Commission, they are not working, lots of institutions are there. So institutions are not working on that time, again, there is a destruction of the peace. So how peace can be attained? Through justice and strong institution. Now I am not going in because there is one clock is there. This is a very good organizer, has fixed one clock that I have more tension, means exam-like situation is like there. So I am not discussing too much about this peace, and this is a very old word. Everyone is speaking, every religion is telling about a peace, every society is telling about a peace. Your peace university is here. But what is the way? Where is the way? What is the formula? Everyone used to tell them, become a good student, become a good student. But how to attain? You will ask me, sir, what is the formula? How we can become a good student? So how we can attain the peace? The answer is sustainable development. Now what is sustainable development? Again, we have to go further. Sustainable development is being popularized by Brundtland Committee. I will say something about the sustainable development, otherwise I think when topic is sustainable development, little bit I will discuss about sustainable development. So that's why if you see that you all know there is a report that our common future written by, published by World Commission on, that is the United Nations Environment Program, and there is a commission, that commission was established, and Gro Harlem Brundtland, which is also known as Brundtland report, that Madam Madam gave one concept, that is a development that meets the needs of the present without the compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. You use the development which will sustain, the development which will be there forever. You should not use the thing in such a manner that future generation will not get anything. We used to tell there once upon a time there was dinosaur. You know, once upon a time there was elephant. So right now, once upon a time there was a peace and tranquility. Long, long ago there was a king. On that time there was a peace and tranquility was there. So it should not be there. You use, development should be there. But development not should be at the cost of the, another thing is coming, the environment. Development is also right, you know. In 1981, there was a right to development has been established by same UNO. The right to development is also right. We are human beings, we are always developing. This ChatGPT, what Justice was telling, that same manner. Development, this, all of this internet connection, all this technology, all are needed. But what is happening due to this chlorofluorocarbon, that is the depletion in your ozone layer. So that should not be there. Trees are needed, forests and highways are needed, not at the cost of the forest. So your technology is needed, not at the cost of the any kind of destruction of our ecology, environment, all of these things. So that's why if you see, another major development is coming in your article, Agenda 21 of the Rio Conference, which is telling about this, again, peace and question of the sustainable development. Now, you are a student of law, you always used to refer that case. If you see, the sustainable development word has been popularized by judiciary. That I must say, Indian judiciary, they have used this phrase, sustainable development, in so massively in every environmental case, if you see. Mainly 80s, late 80s and 90s, if you see. So that's why, basically, how the sustainable development will be achieved? Now, again, stages are there. They have added some principles, precautionary principle, political principle, you all are aware. Who have studied a little bit about the environmental law, you must be aware that are some policies are there, intergenerational equity. So what is sustainable development? Now, one generation will do equity towards the other generation. So intergenerational equity. So sustainable development, basically a balance between the equity and question is coming the growth. Growth and development is a part and parcel of the human being. But question is coming, you should not do any kind of inequity with others. For my success, others' rights should not be violated. If you seek equity, you must do equity. So equity is the word. That's one of the principles of the sustainable development is the intergenerational equity. There are several principles are there, and I'm not going in detail because you will think this is, again, classroom has come. So again, you will feel bored. I am just connecting the sustainable development with the peace, and at the same time, how being a student of law, as a peacekeeper, as a justice delivery system, how we can use this mechanism for the ultimate success of the society and the mankind itself. Now, it's not the, again, gospel truth. Sustainable development has been also challenged several times. Recent case one, there is another question came that anthropocentric, you know, there is a very famous case, this cheetah relocation case with cheetah. So there, Justice Radhakrishnan was there. He raised the question that sustainable development very much anthropocentric rather than the ecocentric. Always man, 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 everywhere. Now, peace is not a human being. That is also remembered. We need the peace of the other. There are several cases. In Ram Leela Maidan case recently, that's a Ram Baba case, Ramdev case. court told that these human rights, these fundamental rights is not for the human being only. This is available for the others also. You see, we are the country of the Mahavir, we are the country of Buddha. They have told about the world peace, not only for this generation. And you must do the equity with the next generation also, as well as other animal beings also, other living beings also. That is also, that subject is also coming. Now animal law is also one subject. Where so many judgments are coming for protection of animals, ecology, birds. So these peace will come only when everywhere, every living being is secure and their rights should be established. That is the situation. Anything, I hope it will give you some brief idea and it will fulfill about the topic, the motto for which the organizer has organized a very good program. I must be thankful to this Peace University. They have invited us and they have given us the opportunity platform to discuss our student, the new peacekeeper, peace builder of our society. And specifically, I must tell the name of Prithvi and Arthur. They have worked a lot for throughout the night. So these students, you must become successful one and you must bring the peace every corner of the society. I hope all of this will give you the success. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your insightful words, sir, and sorry for the slip of tongue. Advocate Anuja Petia, a distinguished legal professional, holds an impressive background in bureaucracy, civil services, and legal advocacy. With an All India rank of 593 in 2015 UPSC Civil Services, she is currently recognized as an advocate on record at the Supreme Court of India. Ma'am's expertise covers various legal domains and she actively contributes to workplace equality and sexual harassment prevention laws. She serves in key positions for the Income Tax Department and the state of Madhya Pradesh. Co-founding Swarnim Partners and Associates in 2018, she continues her commitment to social justice and legal advocacy. Please put your hands together for Advocate Ma'am.
Hi everyone, good evening. Um, Thank you for that introduction and the round of applause. So today the theme is peace and development. I know I'm the last speaker, but also I'm the last speaker, so it's just 10 more minutes, so bear with me. So sustainable development goals is something that almost every speaker here has spoken about. All of you must have also studied sustainable development goals in your law school as part of environmental law. So Sustainable Development Goal 16 is peace, justice, and strong institution. So essentially what are Sustainable Development Goals? They are agenda that have been set by the United Nations for all the countries to achieve a certain level of peace by the time we reach 2030. So we have 7 more years until hopefully we'll do better on these Sustainable Development Goals. So coming to the topic of peace, peace is something I have actually thought a lot about. My master's is in international humanitarian law. So IHL humanitarian law is the study of law of war and peace. How do you legally start a war and how do you legally conduct a war? So peace is something which is intrinsic to that academic exercise. So as future lawyers who are sitting here, I just want to share some insights with you which probably you guys can take home and explore in your own time. So we know that any place on earth that is affected by war, crime, violence, or injustice is unlikely to prosper or thrive. How do we know this? We know this through our history books. We know this from reading about our neighboring countries which have a lot of conflict going on, may it be Myanmar, may it be Pakistan. So what does history teach us? Like while I was coming on the, I was on the flight to Pune. I was actually watching. I downloaded World War II in color on Netflix, and I was watching it. And I was watching, photographs of Berlin, which was completely bombed out. There was not even a single building left. And the guy who was narrating, it's just in the first 10 minutes of that film, the guy who was narrating it said that this is a city which can never be rebuilt. And I happened to visit Berlin last year in December. My sister lives there. And it's an astonishing city. I mean, it's completely rebuilt. It's a developed country. It's a developed city. So when we speak about Europe, I don't know how many of you have read history or are interested in history. If there are any UPSC aspirants here, you will have to study a lot of world history. So Europe is an area which was marred with war for almost 100 years. I mean, France and England, for example, fought the 100-year war, which started in 1300s, ended in 1400s, right? And today, when we look at Europe, it's one of the most prosperous regions in the world. How is that possible? How did a country, so many countries which were completely wiped away, today, so many years later, are counted amongst the most wealthiest areas in the world? The answer is peace. How did that happen? All these countries, they realized that militarism doesn't really help. There's a concept in international humanitarian law. It's called the Pyrrhic victory. It's something what Ashoka also experienced in India. Essentially, it's a victory where you win, but it's not worth winning because you've lost so much. So all these countries in 1945, when they sat together and they looked back, even the victors looked back at their own countries, they realized that there's nothing left. So much of the population has been wiped out. Cities are completely wiped out. So they decided that we are going to come together. We will not fight amongst each other. We will build peace. And basis that peace, we will develop and we will become better regions of the world. And this led step by step to the creation of the European Union. They have integrated their economies today. Their political institutions are together. Today, if you guys take a Schengen visa and you go to France, you can easily cross over to Italy. I mean, these are the same countries which were fighting over borders just a few years back. So this is the strength and this is the power of peace. This is the power of institutions, which is the theme today, building institutions which are so strong that they get so much peace in your area that you can develop. And ultimately, all of us, what do we want? We want to be happy. We want to live in developed countries. We want basic human rights. How does that happen? That happens when institutions are stable. Another example of peace that I want to speak about, it's closer home, it's the country of Rwanda. I don't know how many of you have studied the history of Rwanda. So Rwanda is a country in Africa. All of you must be aware of genocide. It's another, I mean, of course, it's another concept in international humanitarian law. I mean, there are various treaties which define what genocide is. What happened in Rwanda is that in almost 100 days, 75%, imagine 75% of a country wiped out in a short span of 100 days. How did that happen? There was a genocide. There are two dominant communities in Rwanda. They are known as the Hutu community and Tutsi community. They fought amongst each other and 75% of one community was wiped out. Today, as I stand here today, Rwanda is now known as the Singapore of Africa. Again, how did that happen? Of course, one way was courts. Courts are one of the ways how people achieve justice. You as future lawyers will be contributing to helping people achieve justice through courts, but that's not the only way. What happened in Rwanda was that the UN set up the ICTR, it set up tribunals to bring perpetrators to justice, but the bigger contribution was through truth and reconciliation. Truth and reconciliation essentially means that if I have committed a crime against somebody, I accept it and I reconcile that with that person. So like today in India, there are so many, almost every community has gone through some or the other conflict, right? May it be Sikhs, may it be Muslims, what's happening in Manipur, what happened with Christians in Odisha. I mean, we are such a diverse country, it's very natural for us to have conflicts, to not get along with each other, to fight amongst each other at certain point of time. But have we reconciled? Is there a sense of justice in India today? No, because we expect, the Indian perspective is that courts are the only way to help achieve justice, which is not true. Courts are a mechanism, they deliver judgments, they help you reach a certain point in justice, but in reality, a sense of justice really comes from reconciliation. That's where you get peace from. And when communities get along, that's the point where a nation starts developing. So Yeah, so I would just like to cite these two examples. One is of the European Union, one is of Rwanda, to sort of implore you guys that whenever you people enter law, I mean, you will be contributing to building peace in the society in your own ways. And it will not be through, big ticket cases that you come into litigation and you do. It will be through small cases that you do in your everyday lives. For example, a woman who can't afford to fight a custody battle, she'll come to you, she'll say, "Ki, look, I don't have money, can you help me with the custody of my child?" These are the cases or incidents in your litigating life, if you litigate, that is, that will give you peace and that will help you contribute peace to the society. So let's think about this. Today I want you all to remember that peace, as we speak about peace, is not merely the absence of conflict. It's not just the absence of war. It's a sense of understanding, empathy. It's cooperation. It's being humble, being grounded, helping each other. Today you guys are in law school. I'm sure all of you have your own struggles with one subject or the other, maybe with friendships. It's about helping each other, being there for each other, being better people. I mean, if you are better people, we will be a better society, we will be a better developed nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anuja ma'am. Now we'd like to call upon the stage Professor Rifa Sandberg to have a quick Q&A with us.
Thank you all for that wonderful insights. And I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the distinguished speakers for generously imparting their thoughts on this topic, peace building and sustainable development. So we'll quickly take at least just one question from the students and we'll wind it up. Any questions?
So good afternoon to all the dignitaries present over here. Yeah, so good afternoon to all the dignitaries present over here. My question is specifically to Swati ma'am actually. So ma'am, you spoke of gender equality and you also spoke of how transgender should be given chances in the society. Now my question is, ma'am, I don't know if you know about this. There is a organization that is NGLCC that gives certifications to companies as to how friendly their LGBTQ policies are. Now as a woman, let's say if tomorrow you go for a job interview and if there a transgender is given preference for job rather than you, not looking at the qualities, but just because the person is transgender, what is your take on this?
Thank you for this question. A very important question because we are all supporting transgenders. I feel that today the way we are, women are fighting for the 33% reservations. And I feel that it is needed because when I climb up the ladder, I see very less women there, okay? So I feel that if a male is not there in that 33% where my seat is there, and if a transgender is there where a woman is not there, I think it is a big applause for the institution because at least they are creating a platform for them. Today, thank you so much for your applause because today we have accepted, at least I think my hats off to the generation today who has accepted transgenders as their friends and they don't get scared of them, they don't laugh on them or they don't call name shaming to them. So I feel that today we need platforms. Today India needs many platforms and only when we,
That is our generation, when we create platforms, only then you will be able to walk and create systems. Thank you so much.
Yes, we'll take one more question, just one last question.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Ma'am, my question is from Anuja, ma'am. I'm very obliged that you took stand about gender equality. As you rightly said that it is important to get into the system, to change the system, right? So, as I'm very interested and fascinated about the policy makers, and I want to be a policy maker in future. But two contentions that come into the picture is first, as a woman and as a youth. As a woman, they ask me to wait till the women's reservation, and as a youth, they ask me to at least have some kind of experience of maybe 15 years, 20 years. But 15 years, 20 years down the line, maybe I will not be called as a youth. So what is your opinion? Shall I really wait till the women's reservation, and shall I really wait till to be more experienced to get into the legal and the political system?
Wow, that's a complicated question. First of all, I mean, I'm quite impressed that you articulate so well already and you're in college right now. No, I mean, you shouldn't really wait. See, women reservation bill is only an enabler. There's no bar right now for you to get into politics or parliament or anywhere else, right? So you can. What will happen is that once the reservation bill comes in, the chances of you coming in and the platform will become sort of more equal. So you should try it and take your chances right now, because age can't wait. I mean, I wish this was interstellar, but it's not. So yeah, I mean, right now is the time.
Yes. Okay, so we'll take one last question.
A very warm greetings to the panelists as well as the audience. I'm Nandini Ravishankar, a third year BBA LLB student. My question goes to Anuja ma'am as well. The question is, several companies undertake ESG mapping activities. And once we check the company review, the most evidential part is they say that their sustainable development goals and their activities are mapped with each other. However, what is the impact of it is still not present in the report. So what are the viable initiatives that can be taken by the company in furtherance of this?
So, I mean, reports can never present a full picture. I think over here, and especially somebody who has worked in the Indian Corporate Law Service, I have been on the other side. I have worked for 2 years as a regulator where we have actually regulated companies. As Sir had also rightly said that the only effective way of getting anything done is implementation. So your regulators need to be better. That can only happen when you have better civil servants, you have better politicians. See, companies at the end of the day are private entities. They are working for profits. That's the concept of a free market economy. They will never themselves do anything to be more transparent or be more ethical. I mean, that's the general basis. I mean, of a free market economy. The idea is to maximize profits. So there has to be a regulator who comes in and brings in more policies to make them more transparent and accountable. So I think the answer lies not on the other side, which is on the company side, but having better officials and better policies and better regulators.
So thank you speakers, thank you distinct people here, and all my students, thank you. As a session coordinator, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to actively engaging and involving and making this a wonderful session. Thank you, each one of you.
Thank you, ma'am. As we move forward towards the conclusion of the event, I will now read out our resolution for this session. We, the participants of Peace Building and Sustainable Development session at the 3rd International Symposium on Law and Peace, solemnly affirm our commitment to interconnected goals of fostering peace and sustainable development. Recognizing the symbiotic relationship between these objectives, we pledge to explore innovative legal frameworks, policies, and collaborative initiatives that promote not only the cessation of conflicts, but also creation of conditions conducive to a long-term development. Our collective effort will contribute to a world where peace and sustainable development merge for the well-being of the present and the future generations. If you agree with this resolution, please raise your hands. We have 92% people on our agreement, so this resolution hereby has been passed.
Thank you, everyone. Now we request Dr. Milind Patra, Associate Dean Faculty of Peace Studies, to deliver the vote of thanks and concluding remarks. Sir.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Just for the information of the distinguished guest here, I just want to say that being MIT World Peace University, we have an academically embedded peace program, which has around 10 to 12 credits of various peace subjects, including like our culture, our civilization, consciousness, philosophy of spirituality, and all those subjects. And every student coming here in MIT World Peace University, whether in law or whether in commerce or engineering, they have to go through this credit program, they have to pass it, only then they will be allotted the degrees. So along with peace, we don't only talk theoretically about peace, but practical experiential of this also. So as we move ahead for the last thing, I just want to say that our revered founder, this vote of thanks I'm extending on behalf of revered founder, Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karad, sir. Yes, it is vote of thanks, and I'll be closing within 2 minutes. Yeah, thank you so much. So on behalf of revered founder, because friends, please understand, nobody has time to talk about peace. Everybody is so busy making profits, making gains. Probably it is only people like revered Professor Dr. Karad, sir, being a staunch educationist, talking about peace for last 4 decades. So on behalf of revered founder, Professor Dr. Karad, sir, beloved Executive President Rahul Karad, sir, I just want to say that they always believed in the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world as one family. So the concept of social peace, the concept of sustainable development was always near and dear to the heart of this society, the Bharat. To me, but what is really important is say that the true crisis, we talk about so many sustainable development goals, but I believe that the true crisis in our world is not social, not political, not economic. We think that they are the real enemies. They are not. Our crisis is a crisis of consciousness. Our inability to directly experience our true nature and an inability to recognize that same true nature in everyone else as well. So unless this truth is realized, unless we understand that this understanding, this crisis of consciousness is dealt with by more awareness, by more empathy, by more dialogue, then we will continue to work in the wrong direction, hoping always to reach the right destination of the topic of this session, peace building and sustainable development. So I express my heartfelt thanks to all our distinguished speakers here. Our first speaker, Advocate Chinmay Bhosle, said that India is the country which has the most legal laws in the country. So there may be various reasons, but one of the criteria may be that we are the most troublesome society, maybe. That's why we need more laws, more number of laws to keep the society in balance. Maybe, there may be certain other situations as well that we may be more law-loving society and want to keep peace. So, Advocate Chinmay Bhosle, Dr. Swati Rane, Dr. Partha Mitra, and Advocate Anuja Petia, I thank all of them for coming all the way from different places and guiding our students of the law. Yes, I'm coming to the close, and please give a huge round of applause. We need to know that law students can also clap, Yes, and they clap louder. I know that someday or the other, you, as a legal luminaries, you will be, hampering on the dais there. So I think practice should go from right out, in this auditorium itself. So thank you so much. Also, I thank Professor Sridhar Pabisetti, our own senior director, Dr. Sunil George, all the way sitting here as a Dean of the School of Law, Dr. Pratima Inamdar, Associate Dean, School of Law, Dr. Abhijit Dere, Program Director, School of Law, wonderful anchor, Professor Apurva Satyam, wonderful coordinator, Professor Reepa Sanbak, and all the law students, my colleague, Mrudula Kulkarni ma'am, and everyone sitting here, all the students of the law, and all those who made this program possible. I thank all them. Even these technicians sitting, I have a round of applause for them also for showing this wonderful session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you to all the dignitaries and all the students for sitting here patiently.
I request the stage committee to now get ready for the next session, and all the students are requested to stay seated. Thank you.
All the students be seated right now. Do not get up from your places. Students towards my left, towards the end, be seated. I don't want to see anyone standing up. Rajveer, sit down. Sit down at the end. इसको बंद कीजिए. All of you be seated right now. We are starting. Do not stand in front of the gate. Students from the discipline committee, make sure everybody is seated in 30 seconds.
It's not coming. So instead of him, yeah?
I've told them.
उनको इंट्रोडक्टरी रिमार्क जो देंगे उनको भी बताना होगा इंट्रोडक्टरी मृदुला मैडम देंगी उनको भी अपडेट करना पड़ेगा
नहीं मगर
मृदुला मैडम
इंट्रोडक्टरी ही है वो सिर्फ
क्यों स्पीकर है
मैम सिर्फ सेशन को इंट्रोड्यूस करती हैं वो इंट्रोड्यूस स्पीकर को नहीं करती है स्पीकर को ये लोग करते हैं सो इट्स ओके
वो बोलेंगे हो सकता है बाई चांस उनको रहना चाहिए जो थैंक देंगे उनको भी इन्फॉर्म कर देंगे बगल में ही बैठे हैं सीरियसली
Yes, sir.
Everyone, please quiet down. We're starting in another 2 minutes. Testing, testing.
Start with this one.
Good evening and welcome to the second session of the third International Symposium on Law and Peace. On the heels of I request everyone in the back to please quiet down. Thank you. On the heels of the impactful inaugural ceremony and the thought-provoking first session on peace building and sustainable development, we shall commence with the second session on global trade, governance, and law. I, Rishi Kapadia, a fourth-year student of BB LLB, along with my co-host, Rani Soni from first-year LLB, are going to take you through this exciting session.
And now, I would like to call upon Dr. Mridula Kulkarni, Dean of Student Affairs at MIT World Peace University, to deliver the welcome address for the session.
Welcome, ma'am, with a round of applause.
Thank you so much. On behalf of our visionary director, revered Dr. Vishwanath Karad sir, the founder and the chief patron of MIRES, founder president of MITWPU, and the visionary creator of World Peace Dome at Loni Kalgor, and under the leadership of our executive president, Rahul V. Karad sir, who is upholding the legacy of last 4 decades for this MIT group of institutions, which moves with the core thought of peace through the education, and the practices that we follow should be the universal value-based system with ethos, culture, traditions for the well-being of global society at large. So on behalf of our founder president and executive president and vice chancellor of MIT World Peace University, I welcome all the dignitaries on the dais at this third International Symposium on Law, Peace, and Global Trade, Governance, and Law. I can see here we are almost at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So many students are here. I witnessed the earlier session where they participated wholeheartedly, and it was a really interactive session, and I really congratulate your participation and the spirit. I have seen this very rarely amongst the students of this age. So big round of applause for all of you. I welcome you all for this second session. Be patient like this. And that's how I can see that you are the budding lawyers and advocates of this Bharat, the great nation. And I'm sure that the future of this nation is safe with a big boss of the law creators. So in many professions, the big boss is always law. I belong to engineering. I belong to construction industry, but always I have felt that big boss is always law. So thank you all of you and welcome. Let us proceed to the second session, and I'm sure that you will be witnessing a very good interaction with the honorable guests that we have today. I welcome you all on behalf of MIT World Peace University. Thank you.
Advocate Dhruv Rajayan is joining us. Please let's welcome him with a round of applause. Our theme for the second session of the third International Symposium on Law and Peace is Global Trade, Governance, and Law. Corporate law is the target of the majority of the upcoming crop of young lawyers, yet few know what it actually entails. Therefore, this session is focused on throwing light upon the realm of corporate law with specific focus on global trade and governance. We hope the upcoming addresses alleviate some of the abstractness of being a corporate lawyer and will help identify viable career paths. To meet these ends, we have a highly qualified, respected, and accomplished panel with us today. Now, to pave the way for the upcoming discussions, we have an introductory video on our theme of global trade, governance, and law. I request our technical team to play the video.
This session is based on global trade, governance, and law. In an era marked by rapid globalization, the global market craves uniformity and global adherence. The dynamics of international trade have grown increasingly complex. The World Trade Organization, WTO, and various trade agreements have been pivotal in creating a structured environment for international trade. Global trade does not restrict itself to trade and investment law, but expands its wings to other auxiliary laws like international taxation law. This global outreach has willed the nations to surrender their sovereignty to an extent. However, rising protectionism, geopolitical conflicts, and the digital revolution pose new challenges to the existing legal framework. This session will represent a crucial step towards harmonizing laws related to international trade with the imperatives of equity, innovation, and ecological stewardship.
Thank you. Now that you have an overview of our theme, we are ready to hear our guest speak. But before that, we must honor our guests in the trademark MIT World Peace University manner. I request the Dean of Student Affairs, Dr. Mridula Kulkarni, the Associate Dean of School of Media and Journalism and the Director of Dadasaheb Phalke Film Institute, Mr. Dheeraj Singh, and Assistant Professor Dr. Ashwini Pant to felicitate our guests. Please put your hands together for our guest, Advocate Harsh Hiru Gur Sahani, Partner, Food Law and International Trade Law, PLR Chambers. Let's keep the applause going. Our next guest is Advocate Manish Jain, taxation attorney with Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan. Let's have a round of applause. Our next guest is Advocate Dhruv Rajain, Partner, Competition Law and Trade Law, Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. Let's keep the applause going.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, before we dive into the sessions of legal expertise and experience, let us take a moment to capture this memorable event. I request all the panelists to hold the ISLP brochure and take a step forward for the group photograph.
The brochures are on the coffee table in front of you. Let's have a round of applause for our incredible panel.
And now, to shed light on the objective and theme of this session of ISLP and set the tone for this event, I'd like to invite the session coordinator, Assistant Professor Dr. Ashwini Pant, Program Coordinator LLM, MIT World Peace University.
Let's welcome sir with a round of applause.
Thank you. Good afternoon, one and all present. Sorry for my sore throat and all. I'm delighted to welcome each and everyone present here for today's enlightening session on the topic of paramount importance, the role of law in promoting a culture of peace through global trade, governance, and law. As we gather here, we recognize that an increasingly interconnected and interdependent world, the relationship between law, global trade, and governance plays a pivotal role in shaping not just the legal landscape, but the very foundation of international peace and harmony. In the next 1.5 hours, we are here to delve into the multifaceted ways in which the legal framework operates as a powerful instrument in fostering culture of peace. From global trade agreements and global agreements that are here that transcends the border and to governance structure and that facilitates the cooperation, the nexus between law and peace is to integrate and profound impact on the diplomacy, conflict resolution, and the promotion of the shared values. Today's session serves as a platform to unravel the intricate relation between the Sustainable Development Goals and the cultivation of a culture of peace worldwide. The Sustainable Development Goals are universal call to action to end poverty, to promote prosperity to the planet, and to protect the planet. As we dwell into the nexus in these goals and the realm of global trade, governance, and law, we aim to decipher how strategic sustainable practices can be a catalyst for peaceful existence of global trade worldwide. Our distinguished speakers from firms, they are going to enlighten us how the profound impact that aligning trade practices, government structures, and legal practice frameworks and SDG can be fostered for promoting and ensuring the culture of peace. Though insightful discussions and real-world examples, we seek not only to understand the not see the dynamics to play, but also to identify the actionable strategies that can propel us towards more sustainable peace future. Without further ado, let us embark on the intellectual journey together, exploring the crucial role that law plays in paving the way for a culture of peace in our interconnected global society. Thank you for have a peace. Then we proceed further with the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, it is an honor to introduce our first speaker for today, Advocate Harsh Hiru Gursahani, a partner with the Food Law and Compliance team, as well as the International Trade and Investment Law team of PLR Chambers, New Delhi. Mr. Gursahani advises and represents some of the largest food, retail, and FMCG companies across the globe, assisting them on regulatory and compliance matters before authorities and courts in India. He is a bona fide authority in food laws and product compliance domestically and internationally. He is the India representative member of the Food Lawyers Network worldwide. Also, he is the regulatory member of the All India Food Processors Association and a member of a PEDAS committee on the National Program for Vegan Products, amongst others. Mr. Gursahani also leads the international trade and investment law practice at PLR Chambers. He advises and represents the Indian government on the World Trade Organization agreements, dispute settlement, trade policy, and negotiations. It is truly an honor to have a man of your caliber with us here today, sir. Please put your hands together to welcome Advocate Harsh Hiru Gursahani.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. First, I would like to thank MIT for organizing this conference. It's a timely conference. And most of us in our daily lives don't actually think and reflect how our work or how law plays an important part in maintaining peace around the world as well. I think it's great to see a merger between law, peace, as well as global trade. We've already heard in the first session on what peace is, and while there are many dimensions of peace, one of the most important dimensions of peace is avoidance of conflict. Wherever there is conflict, wherever there are wars, there cannot be peace. So how or what does peace have to do with this particular panel discussion? First, just to give you a brief walk through history, if you see, history teaches us that trade has prevented wars. I'll take you back. The two most significant world wars that have happened haven't happened after 1945. They happened before. And while the First World War happened, most of it was political in nature. It began due to assassinations, so on and so forth, with countries that had treaties that got into the war because a colleague or a partner nation had entered into a treaty with them that if one goes to war, the other will follow as well. Things changed. After World War I, the League of Nations was established as an international organization, but one of the biggest pillar that was missing under the League of Nations was international trade. There was nothing that regulated international trade in the League of Nations. League of Nations was also founded through the Treaty of Versailles, where most of the impact was put on how to keep Germany and other countries under check, how to ensure that France and UK, the two largest contributors of the League of Nations, continue to exercise power. Other countries such as United States of America was not even a member of the League of Nations, which actually led to the World War II. That resulted in creation of conflict between countries because of the sheer dominance of countries over another country, restricting them, imposing sanctions on Germany that restricted its international trade, that resulted in it expanding its building on arms and ammunitions, and thus going in for the World War II. So what changed after World War II? I don't know if you all have an optional subject of international trade, but international trade, at least the regulation of international trade, owes its origin to the Bretton Woods Conference, which created three pillars to regulate international trade and finance. One of them is the World Bank, one of them is IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the third was supposed to be International Trade Organization, but again, no surprise, US decided not to sign the Charter of International Trade Organization, resulting in the missing third leg. However, countries had already got together in 1944 under the Bretton Woods Conference to decide and see what to do and how to regulate international trade, and they signed an agreement called the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the GATT. It was now on these member countries that signed the GATT agreement to actually fill in the place of ITO, the International Trade Organization, which never came into existence. So GATT set up a secretariat in Geneva and decided to start regulating world trade using its members, ensuring that there are multiple rounds of negotiations, that countries around the world keep discussing how to reduce protectionist measures, how to increase world trade, and thus further into development. it also played the most important part that resulted in maintaining peace, because when you trade with your neighbor, you don't go to fight with them. The Industrial Revolution had already reached its peak in 1940s, and they realized that uh, one country is dependent on the other country to sell its good, to have that market access as to where these goods would go and actually find a buyer. Obviously, everyone cannot be good in everything, and that's where they started understanding economies of scale and market specialization. So when a country was good in agriculture, they would start producing more agricultural goods. Countries such as United Kingdoms, which had more industrialization, started creating industry goods which found market in the countries such as India, which were looking at agriculture exports. Overall, that resulted in dependence from one country to the other, and GATT was at the center of all of this, regulating international trade, helping countries reduce the amount of tariffs that were applicable on international trade. Uh, just to give you a brief background, tariffs are basically custom duties or taxes that a country imposes on goods that are being imported into a country. So what happened from 1945-47 when GATT was asked to fill the shoes of ITO, till what we heard in the introduction about World Trade Organization. So in multiple rounds, the GATT tried and ensured that tariffs were being reduced while countries were coming together. However, the lack of an organized structure as an international organization was always missing. This led to actually creation of the World Trade Organization in 1994. When the World Trade Organization was created, it looked and harmonized all the aspects of what were covered under the GATT, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, as well as the other future restrictions, or rather future, not future, but the newer manners in which trade was being regulated. So GATT was subsumed into WTO, and WTO now started regulating not only just tariffs for what was being applicable on international trade, but also the newer mechanisms. Some of these included the non-tariff measures, which is the most important thing of today. WTO also had one of the most other important sphere, or the leg, which was a sort of a court for countries to adjudicate their trade disputes, to ensure that they don't go in for a war, they don't start increasing tariffs unilaterally on the others and create a tense situation, or rather affect peace. They started looking at disputes between countries, the difference between how ICJ, the International Court of Justice, which was also present under League of Nations and under United Nations from 1945, was that nobody else could bring in a case before the WTO except member countries. And these were in case the other trading partner, the other country, violated the norms that were established under the GATT or in the WTO. So how, or what are these other new mechanisms that countries are looking at today? The one single word to put it in is non-tariff measures. These, of course, considering that the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade regulated tariffs, it stipulated that all trade distorting measures of any country should be translated and converted into tariffs so that they can be progressively reduced. If tariffs get reduced, of course, taxes on the imported products will get reduced, they'll become cheaper, which will result in higher trade. So countries realized that they have already given commitments for reducing these tariffs, and they did not know how to address the issue of increasing imports. So they created non-tariff measures. Non-tariff measures are other measures that are not tariff in nature. These include technical barriers to trade. How many of you have seen an ISI mark? Just a show of hands. The BIS logo on products. Perfect. That's a technical barrier to trade. What does that do? It requires these companies that manufacture the product to affix a mark or label it in a particular manner. This affects the quality of the product. Similarly, whenever there is an impact on plant, animal, or human life, there are SPS measures which countries take. these are very similar in nature, but there are testing requirements. How many of y'all have heard of genetically modified organisms? Again, a quick show of hands. Quite a few of y'all. Genetically modified organisms, does India allow import of genetically modified organisms? They're regulated. So a measure stopping imports that are in food items which use genetically modified organisms or are produced using GM products are under SPS. So these are just two of the many numerous lines of law that are regulated under WTO. Just to summarize, and since my time is almost up, just to get you all back to how it relates into peace, as I mentioned earlier as well, when you trade with your neighbor, you have a dependency factor on them. Because United States trades a lot with India and they sell most of their products, be it an iPhone or be it a number of technology products that come into India from US, they know that India is an important market and therefore they would have to respect India's wishes. Similarly, when you trade, you have an exchange of goods and values that results in a de-escalation of tension and de-escalation of conflicts, which results in peace. And therefore, global trade actually is the reason why world peace has been maintained post the Second World War. With this, I'll stop my intervention. Open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your wise input, sir. And now it is my honor and privilege to introduce a legal luminary whose expertise in the realm of indirect tax law has been profound on the legal landscape, Advocate Manish Jain. Practicing taxation lawyer at Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan, stands as a paragon for legal excellence with an illustrious career dedicated to the intricate nuances of customs, excise, and foreign trade policy. His prowess in navigating the complex terrain of indirect taxation has earned him a well-deserved reputation as a trailblazer in the field. Advocate Manish Jain has carved a niche for himself as an expert in customs, foreign trade policy, and goods and services tax litigation. His unparalleled insights and nuanced understandings of these domains have positioned him as a go-to authority for numerous corporations seeking guidance on the ever-evolving landscape of indirect taxation. He is an advisor to myriad of companies on a variety of issues having GST and FTP implications. We are fortunate to have in our midst a legal virtuoso of Advocate Manish Jain's caliber. Please join me in welcoming the highly distinguished and accomplished Advocate Manish Jain.
Thank you so much for inviting. It's a matter of great pride and pleasure for us. We are so proud that I've been given opportunity to speak to young and bright minds. I will take the talk forward. As Mr. Harsh has already introduced what is WTO, we all know what is WTO. Now when we talk about global trade, governance and law, what we are really concerned about is there should be free flow of goods, there should be free flow of services, humans. The whole idea is there should not be blockage. There should not be restrictions. Some restrictions are permitted, some are not permitted. When we live in real world, what happens? Now we know the term superpower is nothing but an economic superpower. If your economy is strong, you are powerful. How your economy will become strong? When there is a lot of trade, lot of manufacturing, lot of exports, lot of provision of services, your economy will become strong. The reality of life is, once you become stronger, there are countries who don't want it to be. All these agreements are there for sequential, effective flow of trades, goods, services, etc. But in reality, what happens is, a lot of countries try to act protectionist. They don't want other goods or services come to their country because there is a conflict of interest. What is a conflict? You have a domestic industry, number one, which requires protection. On the other hand, you have international commitments that you will not act anything which is contrary to free flow of goods. How to resolve this conflict? And then there are countries, for example, we have heard almost all countries in the world have problem with China. What is the problem? The way China has acted, they are manufacturing a lot of goods. They are supplying those goods at a lesser prices, at a cheap prices in India, let's say, for example. I will touch only practical aspects. Let's say Chinese goods are coming in India at a cheaper rate, at a very cheaper rate, that Indian industry is suffering, their goods are not being able to capture market. What Indian government will do? They can't simply allow Chinese goods to be flooded in Indian market and Indian industry suffers. It can't be. So what option we have as a country to save our manufacturing industry? Mr. Harsh has mentioned anti-dumping duty, safeguard duties. There are measures which are permissible. Tariff measures, we call it tariff measures. You can put those tariff measures, but even after putting those tariff measures, which means if US goods are coming in India, we will charge only 15% duty. But if Chinese goods are coming in India, we will charge 30% duty, double. So that the price of Chinese goods can at least become at par with some of the Indian goods, and Indian goods can also be sold. One measure is putting anti-dumping duty, imposing anti-dumping duty, for which we have a legal system. There's a dispute settlement mechanism also. There's a tribunal constituted to see whether anti-dumping duty is reasonable or not. So one type of dispute which we have when we comes to practice is dispute with regard to imposition or non-imposition of anti-dumping duty. Second, I am talking about disputes because when we really talks about peace, the peace is nothing but a less or non-existent dispute. That's the peace. So one type of dispute is anti-dumping duty, imposition, non-imposition. There's a huge area of litigation on this aspect. Second aspect is, we all know WTO forum is there. If any country gives extra incentives to their manufacturer, so what we have seen now for anti-dumping duty, to want to protect Indian industry, we are imposing anti-dumping duty on the foreign products which are coming into India. At the same time, India as a country, we want to promote our exports also. If more and more exports are there, it's good for Indian economy. So what we do, we give incentives to exporters in form of various incentives. Various schemes are there, advanced license, EPCG, we can't deal all these things. But there are various incentives given to exporter. So what Indian exporter do, they get those incentives, sell their products in foreign country, let's say US. Now US wants to protect their industry also. So US sees that some of the Indian incentives are not in consonance with the WTO principles. They are giving extra benefits which they are not supposed to give. There are a lot of disputes on this aspect, that those incentives are given by a particular country that is not good. Therefore, WTO, in fact, recently there was huge dispute between India and US before WTO, where all the export incentive schemes given by Indian government and the foreign trade policy were challenged before WTO forum, that those incentives are not aligned with WTO principles, and in fact WTO panel decided against India on these aspects, and Indian government has challenged it, but as a matter of to show goodwill gesture, they have discontinued some of the incentives. To this extent, these laws can affect the whole policy, whole legislations. Mr. Harsh has talked about BIS standards as a non-tariff barriers. or technical restrictions. See what happens, we see a lot of Chinese goods are flooding in Indian market. They are not qualifying the standards because we need a product which are safe for our country, for our consumers as a part of consumer protection. When we say we want to protect our industry, we say, see, these Chinese goods are coming in India. Let's impose some restrictions with regard to quality, that these goods will need to satisfy BIS standards. And if they don't satisfy BIS standards, goods can't be imported into India. There will be complete ban on imports of these type of goods. So this is also one of the restrictions. Now, recently you must have heard, European Union have come out with CBAM, that is Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, to restrict Indian exports, to restrict Chinese exports of various goods in the name of environmental protection. Though it seems to be a crude word, but when these agreements are being misused by some of the countries as a protectionist measure, what EU has done, they say all the Indians manufacturers, Chinese manufacturers are emitting a lot of carbons. Therefore, when those goods are being imported into EU, we will have a script, etc. And therefore, type of restriction which is put for Indian exporters by EU. These type of restrictions are being put. I am giving some of the examples for those. The other restrictions which are there for real protection, that we call SCOMET items. Those items which can be used for dual purposes. Let's say same goods can be used for manufacturing of weapons, and same goods can be used as an industrial raw material. There are restrictions that if you are exporting these type of goods, you have to get license, etc., permissions, etc. Those are required. Now, all these are restrictions, pain points, which are being used by different countries to protect their domestic industry. India now, earlier what used to happen, India was asked to sign an agreement. Because since you don't have a good market, big market, you are not big global economy, you don't have say. Because ultimately all these agreements are negotiated. When we call negotiation, we call about power. Now agreements are being entered, you must have seen, when India has said we have problem with Canada, no country objected to it. Why? Because when you go to UK will say, I am negotiating a FTA agreement with India, I can't afford to challenge Indian statement because my agreement is at stake. What is FTA? Free trade agreements being entered into various countries which will say, if Indian goods are coming to UK or UK goods are coming to India, then we will give you preferred treatment, which means I will treat your goods better. I will give concessions to your goods. So how in international politics, these trade issues, these agreement issues, we call now friendship is economic friendship, are being used for the purpose of international politics, for the purpose of governance and law. So this is how economics play real part, and how you can influence the world in this way, how these agreements are being used as an effective mechanism to show your influence in the world. India currently is negotiating FTA agreements, that is a free trade agreements with various countries. It will help Indian exporters, it will also help Indian manufacturers. Real negotiation take place for each product. And we also, it also becomes efficient because Indian or foreign suppliers will get a good market in form of India. So this way, all these agreements are being used as a matter of law in global governance of and trade. With this, I will close my remarks. We can discuss if some queries are there at last of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your valuable insights, sir. Our next speaker is a force of nature in the realm of competition law, Advocate Dhruv Rajain. Having completed his education from ILS Pune and the Northwestern University, Chicago, he is currently a partner in the competition law team at Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas, New Delhi. His practice includes advising on merger control issues, including filing pre-merger notifications with the CCI, advising on compliance and risk assessment, and enforcement matters. In terms of antitrust enforcement, he has been involved in several high-profile matters, including successfully defending Reliance Jio in the predatory pricing complaint filed before the CCI by Bharti Airtel. He has also successfully defended Inox Leisure Limited before the CCI in a cartelization and abuse of dominant position complaint. He has a rich experience of representing several blue-chip companies at forums across the legal system. His client roster includes Reliance Industries, Cipla, Adani Gas, and GAIL India, amongst several others. Advocate Rajan specializes in competition law compliance, review of business arrangements, and risk assessment, and his work has been recognized as Chambers and Partners Asia Pacific Rankings Associates to Watch, Who's Who Legal Competition Future Leaders, and as a next generation lawyer by Legal 500. It is a privilege to have you here with us today, and I am sure all the students are eagerly anticipating your speech, sir. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Advocate Dhruv Rajan. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you for those kind words, and thank you so much for inviting us over here. It truly is a thought-provoking topic to discuss, especially for candidates such as yourself who are budding lawyers. It's extremely important to see what is the practical implication of what you're studying in your course books or topics that are actually being discussed globally, nationally, and topics of relevance when you actually get out of this lovely institution that you're a part of today. And with that, I'd like to say that, my previous speakers, Harsh and Manish, they sort of covered the topics brilliantly. They laid an excellent foundation, sort of making my job easier so I can just focus on some of the aspects that I practice. So now, coming to this topic of governance, trade, and law. Trade is extremely important for all kinds of things in modern lifetime, even during the past, and Harsh sort of laid that out beautifully. Now, the other two words along with this trade in your topic, governance and law, are intrinsically linked to trade. As long as there is good governance, clear law, clear legal positions, there will not be trade that can be conducted between companies domestically, between nations internationally. So you need effective governance policies, you need an effective law, or at least a clear position of law. Now, having said that, law can change over time. And it happens. It happens depending on what each nation's requirements are, what your demographic patterns are, what is the need of the hour, what are your relations with foreign countries. All of that, etc., will determine how your laws are. But there must always be clarity in the law. And increasingly what we've seen is that the way different events have happened globally, including the recent Ukraine war, the Ukraine-Russia war, various instances with China, we've seen references to China being made in various contexts. The fact of the matter is that increasingly all of these positions are becoming more and more unclear. They're getting diluted. The area of gray is increasing. And why is it important is because, for instance, India has been sort of unable to decide whether it's an inward-looking economy or whether it's an outward-looking economy. For the longest time, we wanted to emphasize and focus on our service industries. Now there is, of course, a little clarity there and there's focus on manufacturing. So all of these things will determine which way your law, which way your governance policies will move. Having said that, I'll try and bring the focus on competition law and how and why competition law there is an important aspect of, or an important responsibility that's placed on competition law. Increasingly, in the last 20 years, it's really picked up pace. Now, there was discussion on World Trade Organization and the GATT, and Harsh explained that beautifully of how the World Trade Organization came into being. Now, competition law and why India adopted competition laws was actually out of the WTO. When India entered the WTO, as a consequence, we were also required to frame an effective competition law. Now, what is that? It is a law to ensure that there is free and fair trade that happens, that all stakeholders, such as your suppliers to a company, the customers, the economy at large can benefit. And there is an equal and a fair footing for everybody to conduct business and trade in the end. Now, competition policy is therefore an essential element of the legal and institutional framework of a country's economy and consequently the global economy. You'll be interested to know that basic things in your life, for example, you would have seen increasingly Android phones and Apple phones are required to, for instance, have a C-type charger. And that is as a consequence of directions given by the European Competition Commission amongst other regulators in the EU. You will also be interested to know that today, if you have a Microsoft Windows, you can use any audio player with it. But in the past, you could only use a Windows media player. Now, these are the things which, from a customer's point of view, may seem to be extremely trivial. But these have larger implications. So this is where competition policy is effective and important to bring about this change. In the past, in say about 20 years ago, competition policy was something which was more domestic in nature. But increasingly, because of big tech, big data is the new fancy word that everybody wants to talk about. There is exchange of data in all forms and formats. You have apps on your phone. All of that data, the fact that there are global mergers that have happened in the last 10 years, which are bigger than ever, where entities are based across the globe and have some form of business or the other. The more and more and the increasing use of the effects doctrine under international law. All of these factors, the fact that there is a company which is in Japan but supplying products hypothetically, say in Taiwan, India, Philippines, wherever else, sitting in Japan and deciding how these sales will be made, all of that and the effects that a decision in Japan in this instance on various other economies is something that has made global trade and competition law get closer and sort of having been studied together and the importance being attached to it. Having said that, competition policies we've seen can be used to both promote and restrict trade. Now, promote trade because it ensures a level playing field, like I said, protects the interests of all stakeholders, and restrict because it can be used as a protectionist measure. Now, of course, Manish spoke about how there are tariff and non-tariff measures. Similarly, competition policy is something which is now, we've seen in the last 5 odd years, especially in response to what China has been doing, the kind of investments they are making, the kind of control they're acquiring across companies. That's caused competition regulators and certain other regulators to look at investments that are being made in their jurisdictions. For instance, Europe was forced to come up with something called the FSR, or the Foreign Subsidies Regulations, which said that any investment by a Chinese company specifically, and they also said any foreign investment because they couldn't afford to upset the Chinese government. They sort of then moved on and said any investment by a foreign company crossing a certain threshold will have to be assessed by an FSR regime. Similarly, post-Doklam, we saw the Indian government come up and introduce something called the Press Note 3 for foreign direct investments being made in India, which said that any investment by a company or a person based in a country which has a land border with India has to be assessed and has to be assessed by the Home Ministry in these instances. That was subsequently tied with how the Competition Commission looks at foreign investments being made in India when they are assessing transactions. So having said which, all of this has to be taken into account when your trade policies are being developed. Increasingly, it is, while we expect as practitioners, and I'd really like it if the position of law and the way the governments and regulators are going to behave, all of that is more clear, but increasingly it's getting murkier. Amongst all of this, there is also a chatter about new and innovative topics, such as sustainability and competition law, for instance, which is to say that if a certain business practice or a conduct of a company results in impacting the environment or results in sustainability and makes sure that these are sustainable and environmentally friendly steps, then in such instances, the unfair conduct under certain competition laws must be ignored. There is also this school of thought. So there are multiple things, and as we're going forward, there are new and new topics that are coming up. What is important is that we discuss these topics, see how we can harmonize these topics and look at and see how different jurisdictions are reacting to these topics. there is increasingly a trend where you're seeing countries across the globe, the US, the UK, etc., including India, trying to be a little more protectionist with the way they are viewing foreign investments. Is that something, and it's a larger question, is that something where we need to take a step back and say, look, I'm going to align my national goals? So are we looking at an inward-looking and a nation-first policy where trade is secondary and whether my national interests are being progressed is primary? Having said that, I'll sort of just, quickly, because I'm left with a minute, my short points are these, that, you need more clarity on law and governance. Policies on competition, foreign investments, etc. So long as these are promoting good governance for the private sector, for the government sector, there is a need for more discussion on it. And governments will intervene in the economy, in the way companies function, in the way trade is taking place today. But so long as it's to correct firm behavior, so long as it's to correct market failure, or for ensuring equitable distribution of resources, I think it's a phenomenal thing to do. But equally, when there is absence of clear policy, it can cause arbitrary intervention, it can serve vested interests, and it can have wider impacts. So with that, I'll sort of take a leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts and inputs. They were truly insightful. Our next scheduled guest was Dr. Balkista Reddy, Dean of School of Law, Mahindra University. He is a seasoned professional and an academician. Dr. Reddy's journey is marked by excellence, having served as a professor of international law at the prestigious Nalsa University, Hyderabad. He is also the director for Center for Aerospace and Defense Laws and Center for Tribal and Land Rights. Unfortunately, due to certain unforeseen circumstances at the Pune airport, he is unable to be here today. However, he sends his best wishes, and we hope to have him here as our next guest on the next event. And to speak on behalf of Dr. Balkista Reddy, we have Assistant Professor Dr. Gaurav Shukla here to address the gathering. Please welcome sir with a round of applause.
Good afternoon, friends. How are you? First of all, I'm just filling the gap. So I would like your attention for 10 minutes. I will be speaking only for 10 minutes. So you are with me, all of you. We will talk little about international taxation because Manish has already discussed about WTO. Harsh has also discussed about WTO and investment. And my area is taxation. Very specifically, Franklin Benjamin said, there are only two things which are certain in this world. First is death, and second is tax. So tax is very important, remember one thing. First of all, today I'm very happy to share the stage with one of my students. I taught Manish in Hidayatullah National Law University in 2007-2008. So a great round of applause to Manish. Second, I will distort some of your thoughts. We have talked a lot about the peace and justice, but I will little bit distort your thoughts about the peace and justice. But before going to the peace and justice, can we go back to 1920? And in 1920, there were 4 wise men who met in Geneva. Why they met in Geneva, we can understand. Because from 1914 to 1918, there was a great war, and people died because of the use of mustard gas. So these 4 wise men met in Geneva to discuss a concept known as juridical double taxation. Out of these 4 wise men, 3 came from capital importing country, and 1 came from capital exporting country. You can understand at that particular time which country was capital exporting country. It was UK. We are capital importing country mostly. So they come up with a solution that the biggest problem in this world is free flow of people and capital. So any barrier which is restricting the free flow of people and capital should be removed. And you can all understand the biggest barrier is tax. Any one of you is willing to pay tax to the government from your own pocket, or you would like to pay? I don't. It is already deducted from the university, from my salary. It's very unfortunate, and it is very unfortunate to all my colleagues also. But no one wants to give tax to the government. There are multiple reasons. I'm not getting into that particular reasons, and I don't care about those reasons. So these people asked and said that juridical double taxation should not be allowed, which means a person's income for a same period should not be taxed twice. A simple term, if I've been in Australia for 182 days, and then after I came to India for 183 days, I become a resident in Australia as well as in India. So I'm liable to pay tax in Australia also and India also, on all the income which I have generated worldwide. So what will be left with me if I'm paying 30% tax in Australia and 30% tax in India? What is left with me? Nothing. Avoid it. Either Australia should tax me or India. Yes, that was decided as juridical double taxation, and it was said that this should be removed. It should not be there. Then after in 1960s, OECD came up with a model convention that how to draft a tax treaty. How many of you know that India is having more than 200 tax treaties? Heard about it? Anyone can raise your hand. Anyone has heard about India-Mauritius tax treaty? India-Singapore tax treaty? We have tax treaty mostly with the tax havens. That's another story. We will get into that particular part. So juridical double taxation was not allowed. Very specifically, OECD has come with a model convention that the countries which are the members of the OECD should fulfill the model which has been specified. However, the developing countries were not happy with this model. Why the developing countries were not happy with this model? Because the technology was within the hands of these countries which are the members of OECD. So when the technology is within the hands of the OECD countries, they will always tax the income. And the source countries like India and African countries does not have the right to receive any kind of taxation. So they come up with a solution as a UN model in 1980. At present, the OECD model is of 2017 and the UN model is 2022. So that's how we get the two model convention that how to draft a tax treaty. Very specifically, tax treaty depends on how you negotiate with the other partner. It is much difficult to amend a treaty than a domestic law. I think you all accept this particular proposition. Yes or no? I can't hear. Yes or no? So it is difficult to amend tax treaties. Now, we have amended India-Mauritius tax treaty in 2007 with a protocol. In 2017, sorry. Why? Because there was a case law in 2004 known as Azadi Bachao Andolan versus Union of India. Heard about this case law? One is saying, yes, sir, can you raise your hand? I would like to see the person who has read Azadi Bachao Andolan versus Union of India. It's a very famous case. Azadi Bachao Andolan is a NGO owned by one of the famous lawyers. I will not take the name of that particular famous lawyer. It will make a controversy though. So in Azadi Bachao Andolan, India-Mauritius tax treaty was challenged. The Supreme Court came with a conclusion by a term, necessary evil. Supreme Court said that we know what is happening between India-Mauritius tax treaty, which is known as treaty shopping. That means neither the government of India is able to tax it, nor the Mauritius government is able to tax it. The money is going as non-taxable. We know that. But we cannot do anything because it is a necessary evil. Why it is being termed as a necessary evil? Can anyone say? What is the percentage of investment which is coming through Mauritius in India? Anyone? Around 40 or 38? Yes, at that time it was 42. So if we stop that particular route, the entire investment of 42 is stopped. Yes or no? Yes? So that's why the Supreme Court said that it is an evil, but unnecessary evil. So that's why we allow it. So that's how we go on with it. Now in 2008 recession, when Lehman Brothers collapsed, the entire world was shocked. And the world came under the umbrella of OECD and asked for a project where tax avoidance shall be stopped. Do you know how much Google avoid tax in India? Anyone? So accept that Google avoid tax in India? Almost yes. Then try to find out the answer also why they do and how they do it. There is a good strategy when the Google is avoiding tax in UK. It is known as double Irish Dutch sandwich system. The system which was used by the Google. Now I'm not getting into the detail. I have talked about the model convention and it is a Friday evening. Lots of people must be having plans. I can understand. So I will not come in between with your plans. Just little bit, 2-3 things, smallly. First of all, those people who are talking about or thinking to become a tax lawyer, you are doing a greatest, what we can say, greatest thing for yourself. A tax lawyer will not be any time be a bankrupt lawyer because our clients will be always rich. So remember one thing, be a good tax lawyer, make money, and remember one thing, people say black money, white money. Just a minute. Black money, white money, no, money is always green. Ask Switzerland. Ask Switzerland. Lastly, what is the road ahead? Now, little bit serious point, 2 points, then I leave. Do you know how much R&D investment is being done by South Korea? How many of you are using iPhone? It's a good system. Yes, it's a good system. How many of you are having little bit pride that you are using iPhone? Little bit. थोड़ा सा दिखा देते हो ना, थोड़ा सा. Little bit pride. But how many of you are ashamed that iPhone is not being developed in India? None of our ITs are doing any kind of patent. The government of India is doing the expenditure of 0.71 of its total GDP in research and development. The government of Korea is doing 4.97 of total of GDP in research and development. You can see the condition of research and development in India. India investment is coming because we are a big, huge consumption market. We are a market. But as a knowledge society, we are nothing. I'm sorry to say these words. We are nothing. Because the inventions which were supposed to be done by the IITs and triple IITs, they are doing nothing. I worked in IIT Kharagpur for 6 years. Those students who do not know me, I'm not assistant professor, I'm associate professor. Okay, you will come across to me in the class after some time, so don't worry. So remember one thing, if you have to survive in this world, the key is knowledge. Knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Except knowledge, nothing is there. Okay, so I'll leave you with this word, knowledge. And remember one thing, peace only comes after war. And the history is being written and will always be written by blood. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I apologize for the mistake with the title. All right, it's been an intriguing and enthralling series of discourses with such an illustrious panel putting forth their views on global trade, governance, and law. And now we have arrived at the apex of our discussions, the resolution. In light of the addresses by our panel members and discussions carried out today, I shall now read out the resolution for this session. In the pursuit of a more just and equitable global order, we, the participants of the Global Trade, Governance and Law session, hereby resolve to champion the role of law in shaping international trade and governance. We commit to fostering cooperation among nations enhancing legal mechanisms to address global trade challenges, and promoting fair and transparent governance practices. Through the rule of law, we aim to build a foundation for a global economic system that prioritizes ease of doing business, fairness, and mutual benefit. If you agree with this resolution, please raise your hands. All right, I think I see pretty much 100% of the votes in favor, and hence this resolution stands passed. Thank you. And with that, we have arrived at the end of this session and of day one of the third International Symposium on Law and Peace. I would take this opportunity to thank all our esteemed panelists for being here, not only from this session, but also the inaugural and the first plenary session. I extend heartfelt So thoda baki hai. I extend heartfelt gratitude to our faculty coordinators, student volunteers, support staff, and of course the audience for their participation.
As we draw near the conclusion, it is my honor to invite Mr. Dheeraj Singh, Associate Dean of Dada Saheb Phalke International Film School and Department of Media and Communication, to deliver the concluding remarks for this session.
Thank you. It is indeed an honor and privilege to be giving out the vote of thanks at one of the most important sessions of the first day of the ISLP. Thanks are in order, especially for our first speaker, Advocate Harsh Gursahani ji, who stressed the importance of how laws, especially trade laws, have come into being, especially after very, very intense seasons of war around the world, and how trade dependency eventually leads to peace. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful words and contribution to this session. Peace, and how they also can be used to limit protectionism for fair global trade practices. Thank you, sir, for your contribution to this session and making it much more interesting and lively. Advocate Dhruv Ranjanji, thank you so much for bringing to light the issue of competition laws and how they make it easier for countries to navigate, especially in our tech age, where tech has complicated matters of law and trade. Dr. Gaurav Shukla, who got most of the applauses, brought to light the issue of taxation treaties and how they determine the axis of global trade. Thank you all for this wonderful and scintillating session on our first day's third session. Thank you once again on behalf of MIT World Peace University and on behalf of the School of Law. I would like you to take back these wonderful experiences and pearls of wisdom that has been shared by today's panel. Thank you for attending. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And this concludes our session and day one of the third International Symposium on Law and Peace. But we have an incredible lineup of sessions and panelists tomorrow on the topics of artificial intelligence in law, the way forward, conflict resolution with reference to alternative dispute resolution, and the validity session on sensitizing legal professionals to herald peace and harmony in the world through the lens of law. Now, all right, and now we have come to the end, but I request all the students to remain seated. We have some announcements from our Dean, Dr. Sunil George, and let's give a round of applause for our panel for being here, and let's thank them. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I request Dr. Sunil George to please come up on stage. Also, please sign your attendance on the way out. Make a straight line outside. Don't gather around because then nobody gets to sign. So please stand in order and sign your attendance on your way out.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. So, first of all, I would like to thank each one of you present here for such a wonderful kind of, presence and hearing through all the sessions. Just some couple of points, which I thought I should share with my students. One is, see, all of the people who come here are our guests, right? And they carry an image about the university, right? So they carry an image about all of us. So what we should do is be as professional as possible. You have been, continue to do that. And whether it is in your dressing, whether it's in your speech, whether it is in your interaction with them, or in whatever you do, because these are the people whom most of us or most of you would be meeting after you pass out from this university in law firms. So basically you say, okay, MIT student. Oh, so a speaker who has come from a law firm, he makes a impression somewhere in his subconscious mind. He says, okay, MIT students are good. MIT students, when I went, they were listening very, patiently and all of that. Second, knowledge, when, in whatever form it comes, is good. So apparently, I'm sure all of these sessions have something for all of us. Maybe not everything for all of us, but something for all of us. And that is what we look forward for the sessions. Please be on time for the sessions tomorrow. See, also, what I want to tell you is, tomorrow is an important session because we have